So let's do a late night recap of the live stream. Fed said all the things that I thought were bullish. So I was looking for upside plays. It did not play out. I took a loser on this fake out. And it's so important when situations like this happen that you don't do resulting. What is resulting? Resulting is a term used in gambling. And when you're using resulting, you're using outcomes to decide whether or not something you did was good or bad, right? And it's something you cannot do in trading because you'll collect bad data, right? We have to focus on the decision-making process. Something like this works 70% of the time. So if I do it 100 times, I win 70 times, but I'll lose 30 times. So this was the 30% outcome, okay? The triangle breakout failed. It actually tested the bottom of the triangle, and then the after hours actually proceeded to the upside, which was my expectation for the day. But with the breakdown, I closed the trade because I had to keep good discipline, right? It could have broken down further to the downside. There's no real reason to hold, especially for a $4 move to the downside there. Those options got crushed, okay? So do I hold through the crush and hope it comes back tomorrow? No, I got to obey the price action. I got to limit my risk. We have to take outsized risk for overnight positions, unless you're already in the money and the trade's working great and it looks really trendy to use swing short-term positions. Okay. Otherwise, intraday is better. Limit your risk, lock in your gains. And if you get a continuation, reset the position the next day. This is classic risk management. Okay. So this still looks bullish to me with the 50 basis point cut. Obviously how much the cut was, as I anticipated, didn't really matter. And most of the reactions and the upside moves here are the Fed using words like normalization, the good growth from the economy. These are the things you wanted to hear, which is affirming that they do not think a recession is here or that it's beginning. GDP did come down slightly, but it's still strong. Just because it's less strong does not mean there's a recession. It's not negative. We're not regressing. It's just not as crazy as it was. These are all bullish things. So I would keep an eye out on energy. It's having some pullback. This was a trade I covered in the last video, and we got some nice 40% returns. And between like 35 to 45% returns here. I closed the trade in the FOMC to take some risk off, and it ended up just rallying the whole day, actually from the lows, going up even higher in the after hours. If it back tests, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a back test tomorrow. If it comes back to this 87.43, that could be a really nice buying opportunity here. I would also keep an eye on, now that we've got the 50 basis points in and we know that there's more rate cuts coming, keep a real close eye on biotech. Biotech's really sensitive to rate markets. So when the cuts start happening, it usually is a really nice setup. And even just looking at this chart right now, this looks like a huge breakout could be coming for biotech. So XBI from here might be bullish until the end of the year. And you have a really nice setup here, right? So what would that be? You've got 3 points to the downside. So this is something that, this is very playable. I have a full video coming out on risk management and covering all of that in ridiculous amounts of detail. Super long video. So make sure you like and subscribe and hit the bell so that you make sure you don't miss it, or hit the alert, because we're no bell trading. There are no bells. We work 24/7. Hence why I'm making a video at 11 o'clock at night. Thought it was later than that. I'm glad it's only 11. Sweet. So tech, let's actually go here. What you want to look for tomorrow is you want to see tech be bullish tomorrow. Okay. You want to see that pick up. Keep an eye on health and technology as well. Okay. Keep an eye on biotech. We might get some good moves there. I would keep VKTX on your radar. I would keep MODD on your radar. I would keep an eye on semis because you want to see strength there. And the video was weak today. That should be concerning. Intel had a big pullback after the pop on the news that they secured a military contract for some purchases. But the greater trend there looks like it could be trying to bounce out of the hole. I think more lows are still inbound there for next year, but it could be a nice trade opportunity to play to the upside. Retail was strong in the beginning portion of the day, but then gave up some of the gains. A firm still can work. A firm actually has a really great, like, either way it goes, there's actually a trade setup in my opinion. So I think a firm over the 45 still works. It faked me out today. It crossed over. And this one, I would probably just call a bad trade. I'm not sure if that's a trade I would repeat. Just because on that initial move, it set the range basically like SPY did, where you get this range set you get the high and low set, and then it basically chops within the range. So typically when this happens, you can play the breakout. The downside was a little bit harder on this because you have this support and consolidation at this key level, around this key level here. So technically you can't play the bottom side of this. You have to look for these, and we actually saw it end up bouncing on this. So because of that, I never considered any downside plays, and that's why my lines are set the way they are. Because but when you get these huge candles that set this huge range breaks can be good. And playing into that, into the initial reaction of the news, can also be real bad. So I wouldn't say a firm is a trade I would do again. Again, those contracts were like 30 cents, and I only bought like a handful of them, so it was a ridiculously small position that I was going to load up if we got confirmation, and it ended up just failing. Which can happen. I still think the setup here, I just got excited because the setup here looks really good. So like this thing looks like it wants to go back to the highs at the beginning of the year. And we can see what kind of like crazy moves it can make. It can have these big pullbacks and then just force its way back up. So the trend still looks alive to me. If it does break down, there's a good trade for a retracement as well. And you can just use your fibs for an extension there. So and I'll have a video on how to do fibs on your own. So that's what's kind of like really standing out to me right now. I think I covered all the, I guess I could talk about gold for a moment. Bitcoin, by the way, is just, we're getting all the follow through. We heard all the right things from the Fed, and it just faked me out into the close. So I expect things to be really bullish tomorrow. Bitcoin getting great follow through. BTBT actually held up really well today. It found a really nice base. It's back to 3. I gotta do an update video after this actually for my small account. Turning $100 to 100K. That account is holding a BTBT contract for 2026. Mara faked me out. Well, I didn't take the trade. I was swinging a trade into today, and then the delta was just getting too far away from me. It was at a 20 delta. There were January contracts, and I was just looking at the price action and looking how violent the reaction was to the downside. It had broke like this key level that we had seen it defend twice, and so that was probably a fake out to the downside that I normally would have held, but they had ripped some implied volatility out of it, and the deltas were escaping me. And when that happens, you have to reset your deltas because then I might need a much higher high just to break even. And I don't want to sit there, and I don't want to average into the position. I would like my original allocation into the position rather than averaging into the loser. And so I'll just wait for my timing. And when I get back in, reset my delta, make that money back. On, under trade log, that'll look like a loss. But in my opinion, I would just pair the trade. In my trade log, I would just put a reset for the same position, and then I would consider it the same play, just with poor timing. I did the same thing actually for my own trade log with USO earlier. Was it earlier this month? I tried a USO position and stopped it out at like 20%. And I was like, okay, I probably I thought, okay, I'm probably coming in a little too soon, and I probably should play XLE anyways. So I came back in, and then as you saw in the weekly report, we played XLE, and I made between 35 to 45%. After the 20% loss in the original position, I'm net positive. That overall is a win, right? So it's all about thinking in bets, not resulting. That's what we do. Today was kind of a lame day, but the beginning of the week was strong, and I think tomorrow will also be really strong. So that's my expectation. That's what I'm seeing. There's your recap of the FOMC. God bless. Have a good night.